What's up YouTube? Welcome to my video about how PoE is about to be saved by GGG. GGG recently, yesterday, released kind of a manifesto of sorts of the upcoming changes they'll be doing. Now, the word upcoming is very vague. It could be this league, it could be next league, it could be next year. It could be when PoE 2 comes out, so it's pretty hard to know exactly what upcoming changes actually means, but basically, I think the reasoning behind this post is that on Reddit, there was a post mentioning how GGG always ghosts the league and disappears after 1 to 2 weeks of changes. And this is pretty much something that we've seen consistently throughout time. After 2 weeks or so, GGG usually disappears. And then they start working on the next league, which is perfectly fine. We want the next league to be as good as possible. Player feedback player retention is at record lows. I mean, feedback is at record lows in terms of what they're doing. And approaching Arch Nemesis, we saw the release of Lost Ark. So this is the player retention chart that was posted. So you can see here, Kalandra League at end of week 1 has lost 50% of its player base. The previous worst was probably Arch Nemesis League, which was 45%. And this was pretty much because of Lost Ark. And then you see another negative 30% here, which is because of Elden Ring. So Kalandra League's probably going to do slightly better than Arch Nemesis in the long run because there's no big game release outside of Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Now, I just wanted to bring up something right here, was how the community changed after Expedition League. So Expedition League, before Expedition League, almost every single league had decent retention at the end of week 1. Like the worst was probably negative 30%, and that's because Synthesis was really bad. And Harvest was negative 36% because the original Garden was pretty much an abomination, and it was really, really bad. So after Expedition League, however, something changed within the player base. Either they got mad, they got discontent with the nerfs, or the game just became too hard. We started seeing this almost losing half of the player base at the end of week 1. Pretty much every single league after that. So Expedition, Scourge, Arch Nemesis, Sentinel, and now Kalandra have all been horrible in terms of retention when compared to the past. Now, this might be because players are just better at the game and they know more, right? And so they finish the game faster. At this point, I don't really know. So this is a post that sparked the post, I'm pretty sure. So are we done with communication for the league? Is it going to be put on life support and GGG just hopes next league we forget? So that's pretty much why they released these changes. So let's go over what they are actually addressing. Now, first off is another Arch Nemesis mod nerf. Now, this one will be pretty welcomed by most players. Now, what they want to do is they want to limit the number of Arch Nemesis mods that can spawn on certain rare monsters. So if you ever did the Cortex fight or you did the Belfry boss, you would know that that fight spawns a lot of rare monsters for Cortex during the intermission. Now, additional rares that spawn on certain boss fights and those that can't drop items. So you can see here, this is actually a Cortex boss fight that someone posted, and they were super mad about how there was Arch Nemesis mob or rare that actually killed him. And this is actually during the Uber Cortex fight, I think. So next up, we have the MF Cole meta. If anyone has actually seen a God Touch Pantheon, right now, the meta is to go into, TFT, find a person to call your rare who has like 1000% rarity. And that's pretty much the way that it's going right now. So let me see. If you actually want to get an MF calling service, I think it's in. So it's on services and it's all the way up here. Arch Nemesis Recruit. Which is kind of interesting name for it. But you can see here, there's a lot of people looking for that. Looking for MF Cola, looking for MF Cola. And this is pretty much one every like couple minutes or so. So this is a very, very, very important job right now. So it's kind of bad because a lot of the harvest changes were made so that people didn't go on TFT and we didn't need to use a third-party Discord. But now with this new MF Cole meta, we're pretty much going back to TFT Discord. And in some cases, it's even more important than before because this is the only chance we have at a lottery drop. Now, what they said is that there's no immediate solution. But the biggest thing is I hope they don't take away the loot explosion and replace it with nothing else. So if they pretty much make it so rarity kind of caps out on the mob, then it's going to feel really, really bad. So it's interesting to see what they'll do, but I'm actually cautiously pessimistic about the wording of this. And this is the 50 Divines that Chris's meme now is about, because he said how top tier groups were finding 50 plus Divines, so everything was fine. Now, next up is a change that I do think will help out a little bit, but it is too little too late. And this is some improvements to the Kalandra League. Now, what they said was they're making some improvements, including a change that actually allows you to see which rooms have already been completed. So I'm assuming that I'm not really sure what they mean by completed. Do they mean by completed when you're inside of the lake or completed when you're trying to make the lake? I haven't really done that much lake in the past, so let me know down in the comments what they mean by rooms being completed. But the thing that interests me the most is how they're making the reflecting mist more common. Now, right now, the reflecting mist is pretty rare to get, and it allows you to double certain mods on your items. Now, in the teaser trailer, they never introduced the fact that you could have 6 double mods on a ring or amulet. But apparently, you could actually have more than 3 doubled mods. So you can have rings like this. So this is an omniscience ring, which is just absolutely crazy. It has 118 strength, 114 dex, 55 intelligence, 129 life, and it also doubled the non-channeling skills have minus mana cost. Funny thing is this guy actually did it on a -6 instead of -7. So unfortunate, right? But basically, Kalandra League, they're doing something to it, at least, at the very least. And I do think the reflecting mist will help out a little bit, but I still think the league is still way too unrewarding to do. Now, next up is this kind of a minor thing. They're buffing Tainted Currency. Now, currently, Tainted Currency is atrocious. Most people, from their experience, say that it is around a 10% chance to add a link or socket, meaning going from a 4 link to a 6 link is a 1% chance. Now, the reason 4 link to 6 link is important is because you could actually go on your crafting bench and re-socket it to a 4 link, so it costs 5 fusings and 5 ball orbs. But some people have brought up a very good point that you bench reset to 4 link as necessary instead of starting from 0 link. And it would take you 113 attempts and 91 resets, which is cheaper than benching a 6 link outright. So it is okay in its current state, but it would be nice to see the chance be bumped up to roughly 25% or something like that. Now, next up, we have a big one, which is Harvest. Now, Harvest is something they haven't really addressed besides lowering the life force cost of certain crafts. Now, Harvest is mainly fine in my opinion, except for one thing, which is the omission of certain crafts. Not having Reforged Keep prefix and suffix has made crafting a very, very expensive endeavor, or in some cases impossible when it comes to influence items, or very, very, very expensive in the cost of 6 to 7 divines if you want to deterministically do it, so you cannot break the item. Now, I do think they will add back Reforged Keep prefix and suffix. I don't know if they'll add back remove non-influence, add influence, or add influence, remove influence. At this point, it is anyone's guess. But the only question is, will it occur in 3.19 or 3.20? I do think it's not really too big of a change to just add it, Reforged Key prefix and suffix back into this list, and I think they could do it potentially this league, but I'm not really sure if they will do it. Now, next up, we have minion changes. Now, I don't really know much about minions, but if you ever watched Gazi before, all you could hear is him complaining about the survivability of minions, whether it's his arch anime guardian or something else. Now, how they're trying to fix minion survivability is they're trying to make certain monster auras and debuffs not apply to minions. So rejuvenating and executioner. I think executioner is the one that makes it so you can't recover your HP above 50%. So you pretty much have minions at 50% and then they pretty much just get killed, I'm assuming. And they're also doing an audit of all League Monster skills and endgame map boss skills, so they adjust the damage against minions. So maybe some of the bosses now do too much damage after the minion rework. So it's nice to see that they're doing that and giving minion players some love because they do deserve it. Now, next up is kind of a big quality of life change that I personally experienced in the last gauntlet, or 2 gauntlets ago. I actually died to Lightning Mirage. So it's nice to see that they'll be nerfing Lightning Mirage, which is now called Storm Strider. I misspelled this. Spawn by increasing cooldown and making them spawn close to the player but not right on top. So right now, one of the big problems with Lightning Mirage is that Lightning Mirage spawns a bunch of stuff on top of you if you attack super, super fast. Now, this is a problem that people have mentioned about how bad melee is, and it's just very, very inconvenient. So it's nice to see that they're making it not affect builds that attack super fast and not make them spawn right on top of you. Now, Next up is actually a pretty big buff to Spark and Lightning Strike. Because right now, Spark and Lightning Strike, if you cast into a wall or something, the projectiles don't come out. Let me see if I can actually show this to you. Let's see, where's Spark? So let me just buy a Spark Gem. I'm not really sure if this is going to work. But right now, if you actually cast into a projectile, you'll see that it doesn't shoot anything. So sometimes you can just have a hoarder crafting station or something like right here. And like it will shoot it. But sometimes if there's another obstacle, nothing will come out. So they're trying to reduce the size of the projectile so that the pebbles or rocks or terrain won't really make an issue. And this is pretty much because Lake of Kalandra tiles cause the spark projectiles and lightning strike projectiles to kind of not get casted. So this thing was a post that was actually submitted 4 to 5 years ago, or this issue, how sparks just isn't casting when you're close to a wall or in the Lake of Kalandra when terrain splits from higher to lower. So it's glad to see they're finally fixing this issue after probably like 8 years or so. Now, next up is the thing that I'm most concerned about, which is the potential loot fix that may be appearing. I do know that loot is in an atrocious state compared to last league because last league has sentinels and juice mapping is pretty much all but dead at the moment. Now, I do think that GGG is aware, I do think. GGG say they are aware of the feedback around loot in Path of Exile overall and will continue to discuss and monitor the situation. So one of the key words that we've learned in this Balance Manifesto or whatever this upcoming changes manifesto is monitor, and they keep using this word. Now, I do think it is probably extremely copium for any loot changes to be implemented in 3.19. So I am not really holding my breath for any huge change to loot. Now, overall, this will probably not fix the player numbers for this league. I do think at this point it is too far gone. And we pretty much are just waiting for 3.20. And Lake of Kalandra needs some massive buffs. If people in SSF hardcore are doubting if Lake of Kalandra is worth their time, then you know that Lake of Kalandra is surely not going to be worth your time in Trade League, right? So if SSF players are wondering if the league mechanic is worth doing, then you know something is wrong with the league mechanic. And I do think that 3.20 will bring a better future. Maybe the future will be the return of juice mapping. Maybe the future will be a better beyond than even before. Maybe the future will be that we can do more league mechanics than just Legion, Expedition, and Heist. But we'll see what happens, right? And last thing I want to bring up is where's the Venom Jar MTX? Venom Jar still looks absolutely atrocious with the base MTX, and I do hope that they add an MTX now that the skill is very, very popular. But like I said before, let's look to the future. Maybe 3.20 will solve the problems. Maybe it won't. Maybe the game will come back to life in the middle of this league and players will come back fighting Divines, Exalted Orbs, Mage Bloods, Mirrors everywhere. But thanks for watching. I hope you find more Exalted Orbs than me and see you next time. Bye!